Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian Farmer, it's Tropic Trading Group, and this is your end of day as well as end of week market recap for Friday, June 27th. Happy Friday, everybody! What a week for the markets. There was a lot of moves this week, especially when you look at the week performance, which I will get to in just a minute, but. A little bit of volatility today, a little bit more headline. We haven't heard too much about headline risk lately. You had one with Trump announcing that for now, I say for now, I'm throwing that in there, that no trade deal for Canada. But the way that these things have been going, if you've been paying attention to this Trump administration and the last Trump administration, these to me seem like they are bargaining type situations where, hey, I'm going to start here, and I may end up, we may end up compromising the so-called art of the deal. So, doesn't surprise me to get some of these headlines. It surprised me to some extent, like how much the market moved on that. But I come back to the fact that I think we're a little bit over a little bit, maybe a lot, I guess, depending on how you want to look at it, but a bit overbought. And that's in the short term, I think, for now. And that's, again, it was a big week. So risk disclaimer in front of you. Everything that we're going through is for information purpose only. Thank you for joining in and watching at the end of the day here Friday. But we still finished positive for the day. So even though there was that intraday volatility, the market kind of snapped back. The other thing that you kind of had to deal with today, which makes me really not want to trade too much these end of months, particularly this one, is because you have the annual Russell rebalance, and that really kicked and moved around a few names. I don't have all the particulars on that. I looked on the website, and they published like the preliminary adds and deletes for the Russell 3000 index. Got to remember, Russell manages a lot of different indices. I know sometimes when you hear, oh, Russell rebalance, oh, that's small caps, that's IWM. Yes, very much so. But they also manage a huge amount of other indices that are like a lot of pension funds and different asset allocators allocate their money to. So, for example, like I'll bring up like one of the ETFs, and again, you may not know this ETF, and that's fine. But this is IWB. Here, I'm going to stop the screen and I'll reshare for you. So resharing window, share, and then there you go. So this is the Russell 1000. So this is all large caps, right? So this is a large cap ETF. And it's kind of, when you think about SPY or IVV, which is the other product, the Spider product, obviously that's the biggest index out there is the S&P 500. But if you want like more diversification, you can actually invest in this. And this is the largest 1,000 names. And again, there's a decent amount of assets behind these things. There's $41 billion behind this. Also, the growth and value indexes. So this is what is it? IWD, which is large cap value. Just to give you an illustration, there's $63 billion behind this one. IWF, I think, is the large cap growth. And this one has what? What's the shares outstanding or the market cap? $111 billion in the Russell 1000 growth ETF. So they have a bunch of other ones. They do the same thing for small caps. They also have a value and growth. There's also like a whole bunch of other. There's Russell manages a lot. I don't know the exact number of billions and billions of dollars that they manage, but again, it's very much more than IWM. Just for purposes, uh, let's see what IWM so IWM is $64 billion. So those other ETFs are actually larger. And again, I know how folks like associate when they hear Russell, they're like, yeah, the small caps. But they manage a lot more. So this was today, just to kind of give you the full explanation. Russell does their annual rebalance once a year. I believe they're going to change that to quarterly because, as you could see, like it really pushed some names around, and I'll go through a few of those names with you. A couple other things that I just wanted to highlight. So let me stop sharing this. Stop share, reshare, window. All right. And then this. A couple other things that stood out to me was it just did feel like there was some rotation on the tape today. For instance, the diamonds, I don't think people talk that much about this either, the Dow, which doesn't rebalance, like, it's rebalance its constituents. So by the way, when I say rebalance, it's not just adding and deleting, like, when the S&P does that, right? Last week they rebalanced all of their indices back to their benchmark weights. So the Dow doesn't do that. They will kick out, they will add one name, delete one name from time to time, but they don't do like a quarterly index rebalance where they're shifting around all the weights because it's a price weighted index. Regardless, you're getting in the weeds. Listen, this is what I used to do when I was an institutional trader. I used to work on a Delta One trading desk. I also worked with the portfolio trading desk for a while too. So I know all these things behind the scenes, and I know that they're like for those institutional trading desks, like it's the biggest day of the year for them. And it's funny because some of these, like the portfolio desk will sit right next to like the big cash trading desk, and the cash traders like have no idea some of the stuff goes on. But meanwhile, it's billions upon billions of dollars that are exchanging hands on these big rebalance days. So let's get back to to some of the moves for today. Nike kind of drove some of the moves today too. You could see leisure had a big day today. Consumer discretionary had a nice day today, up 1.6% today. Aerospace and defense, unbelievable, just continues to chug higher. Boeing had a big move today. I've been sitting in Boeing stock for a while, being patient with that one, thinking that the move to the downside was a little bit too much with that crash that happened in India, which is now going back a few weeks at this point. But regardless, that had a big day. I'm not sure if there was something going on with the Russell rebalance there as well. What underperformed today? Clean energy, the uranium names underperformed. Gold, silver miners. Those really moved back some. So the mining group, which was strong yesterday, but mainly on more on the copper move and some of the other metals. But gold was down decently for the day. Gold down 1.8%. So let's go through some charts, guys. So I'm going to stop share again, and I'm going to re-share window. All right, SPY. So first thing I want to go over here is just quickly with the indices. I mean, no change in trend today. The issue is that, and this is where I think folks, with the move that happened intraday today, I think, myself included here a little bit, just getting complacent with this market. We've seen such strong things happen this week. The semis and Nvidia break out, the bank's doing really well. So it's tough when you see all this, your mind starts to shift to like, oh my God, this is really bullish. But it doesn't mean, keep the perspective. And that's why like these days are tough when you've got a Russell rebalance. I also think Monday's going to be tough too because it's quarter end and all these pension funds do crazy stuff at the end, at the end of the month and at the end of the quarter. But the important thing to remember, in my opinion, is to have perspective and like not get too shaken up, or, put this in the context of like, hey, you may get buying opportunities. You may also like if you've been doing this, if you've been trading for a while, you might actually like want dips at this point, because if you've been trimming and selling some things as the market has broken out like this, right, you like eventually you're going to want to reload and, increase your exposure, but probably not as we're getting extended like this. I'm just going to go through the rest of the indices very quickly here. Qs, also a little bit of underperformance today, but keep in mind the Qs are still at 4% this week. That is a huge amount. So again, please don't think that the market is going, like, don't have that complacency come in where you think at this point the market's going to go up every day, right? Every day you should be on your toes and you should be a risk manager, right? And not get caught up. And I know it's very tough right now to not get caught up in the FOMO. When the market moves 4% in a week, right, it's going to happen to some extent. That's human behavior, but it's also that's a very abnormal week. Keep in mind, by the way, the last 2 weeks, we did go sideways, but we don't normally have like a plus 4% week. But obviously there was a lot of macro stuff and headlines and geopolitical things going on this week as well. Here's IWM. IWM did make it above the 200. So congratulations, IWM makes it above the 200-day moving average. However, there's still major resistance ahead of it, and that's at 217.36. That's the top of the value area for the year. Reminder, like I'll give you an example of how this worked with these. Once you rally up to the top of the value area, again, it's nothing's 100%, but a lot of times you're going to hang out there for a bit. Hence, you could, we can go to the example on NVIDIA, right? Look at this hung out for about what 2-3 weeks, right? And just kind of went sideways around that major resistance. And then once it broke through, it broke through in a big way. So at this point, what would I be looking for in NVIDIA? Maybe a little bit of a check back, right? And notice that we're extended here. So again, I'm trying to use these words: extended, short-term overbought, just so that you can get a feel for, hey, if we come back, if we come in a little bit, you want to, in my opinion, want to have a little bit of dry powder to kind of buy a little bit of a check back. All right, that's my thought on this. I mentioned Boeing. Let's go to gold first. I just wanted to show this chart. I talked about this the other day that that GLD broke its 50-day moving average. These are main things, by the way. Like I try to emphasize when something's been in an uptrend for a while, as gold has been in an uptrend or above its 50-day moving average for all of 2025. Notice it's doing something different now. It's breaking down to some extent. It's losing that trend for now. Now, when you're in a trend for a long time, and it's one thing if you're like above the 50-day moving average for a month, but it becomes more significant the longer time that you're above that 50-day moving average. And once you break it, I tend to say get out of the way, right? And wait for it to reclaim the 50-day moving average, because you don't know how far this is going to correct. And I'm just using this. I'm not, gold, I know some people like, some people don't, but this is just technical analysis 101. When you break the 50-day moving average, for like somebody who follows trends, get out of the way. If you're not a trend trader and you're doing something else, then that's fine. But this is just trend following 101. You break that 50-day moving average after you've been above it for 6 months. That's a big no-no. All right. So that's gold. Let's talk about a couple of these end of day moves. Amazon, really nice aggressive move. Look at what happened here at the end of the day, and look at the volume. So I think this is attributable to the Russell rebalance. It has not come in at all, but a lot of people like to fade these moves, but it has not come in much. Google, same thing. And somebody was saying that Google had stock specific news. I don't know if it did, but it certainly hasn't come in far. But again, look at the volume that happened on the close. So definitely somewhat related to the Russell rebalance. Again, sometimes it's tough to separate if something uh, had stock specific moves. Look at Boeing. Boeing had a huge move today. This was up almost 6% for the day. So again, I think this had something to do with that. Again, I don't know if something's going on behind the scenes too with that India story about the flight that happened, a few weeks ago that unfortunately tragically crashed. So that could also be related to maybe they have some findings about that. I don't know. Palantir. Right. So I know a lot of people talking about this move in Palantir and how many shares. By the way, look at it, check right back to the top of the value area. So I bought this. Right around a few minutes after the close today, and look at how much it's retraced. Right. So this is typically what you see on some of these rebalances, right? You will see that it gets really stretched because they're selling a huge amount or buying a huge amount. And then once it's done, you could see it retrace. So I already, I bought some at, what was my purchase price? And the 130 handle, I 130.70, and then I sold some right around 133. So that's a nice little trade, and that's how you can kind of look to play some of these Russell rebalance moves. Is basically look for reversions after they, because again, they're just one-time events. All right, so That's it. I don't think I'm going to go over like majorly that many other things in this end of day video. I've been doing, every day this week I've been doing about 20 to 30-minute videos. So I think that we made a huge move. Oh, I will review very quickly with you the um, market performance for the week because they are astounding numbers. But this was a thing of beauty, and I did get long the XAR ETF right in here as it started to break higher. Again, I could have picked some single names, but I just think that the group is so strong that you can just go long the ETF when that happens, and certainly that's what's going on, up another 1.4%. Keep in mind at this point a little bit extended here, and I believe I did take a target in this today, but very nice movement, a lot of different names. We were talking about this in the trading room, like a couple names. I would watch maybe Joby next week, which is again more of a speculative name. But look at HWM today. I mean, talk about a market. And again, look at the volume today. So that probably being added to some index too as well. Look at the volume. Let's see, did all that volume happen on? Yep, all the volume happened on the close too. So again, that's huge. And look at the move at the end of the day. Now, this did revert back too, especially this happens with the smaller, like, not to say HWM is not a small cap name, but the less liquid name, all the way up to 184 and came down quite a bit here after the close. But oh my God. And by the way, I think that's why they're going to break up the rebalance from annual to quarterly because it's too much volume to trade. They're pushing names too much for these rebalances. There's a lot, as I went through in the beginning of this video, there's a lot of assets that are tracking these. The more assets that track an ETF, by the way, quick point, because there's so many misconceptions that I hear about this stuff. And I know there's so many ETFs that are being created these days. It doesn't matter. You could create as many ETFs as you want. That's not going to add any major risk to the market. It depends on how many assets are tracking these ETFs. So if they create thousands and thousands of ETFs, but there's only major money tracking 100 of ETFs, it's not that big of an issue, right? It's all about what the assets are tracking the ETF. So the bigger the larger the assets that track an ETF, the larger the index rebalance is going to be for the individual names. All right, so that's HWM. What I mentioned I was going to show the performance for the week. So let me stop share. Share again, window. And then I need to click this on. All right, there we go. Here's the performance for the week. As I mentioned, huge week for the indices. SPY up 3.5%, Dow up 4%, small caps up 3%. Here's the Qs, which outperformed every day except, I believe, every day this week except for today. EEM was up 3.8%. The international areas did very well. Bonds were up on the week. Gold down 2.9%. The dollar was down 1.4%. Bitcoin up 3.5%. Look at the growth ETF was up 4.5%. Semis dominated this week, up 7% for the week. What else? I mean, transports were up 5%, communication stocks, steel stocks, banks up 4% for the week. These are just big numbers. And to the downside, it was, your energy stocks. Those came falling down pretty decently, as well as the gold miners, which are down 3%. Consumer staples continue to be showing relative weakness, down 0.6 percentage point. By the way, look at the home builders were up 4% too. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but the home builders were one of the strongest groups today too. At least that's what I saw for most of the day. Where did they finish for the day? I don't see them up there anymore. Maybe they sold off a little bit at the end of the day. International areas of the market, most of these were up. EWT, Taiwan was up 5.5%. UAE ETF was up 7.6%. But again, a lot of countries up well over 3-4%. All right, guys, I'm going to leave it there for now. I'll be doing plenty more analysis for Tribeca Trade Group members, and you could check out our services at tribecatradegroup.com. By the way, we will be having a special for new members next week for the 4th of July. So that's coming next week. Guys, have a great weekend, and hope you had a great week as well.